We have to have a development model that values clean air, that values biodiversity, and price clean air and price biodiversity, the preservation of biodiversity in the things we consume. If that happens, then people are going to more responsibly consume. So that's the first point. And then secondly, we need to unleash a wave of innovation that would allow the things that we are doing now to consume the same amount of electricity that we are consuming, but from renewable sources rather than from polluting sources. To live in the same buildings and enjoy air conditioning, but by retrofitting the buildings now, using half of the electricity that we were using before. They're using the same appliances, the iPods and the computers, etc., but making sure that they're energy efficient. They're powered through different renewable fuel. I just walked in the hall out here and I saw LG showing different sources of powering devices. So first of all, it's changing our thinking and the development model. And secondly, unleashing innovation so that we can continue to consume and live a prosperous, decent life, and everyone should aspire to that, poor people as well as middle-income people. Prosperous, healthy life, and enjoy all the things you're enjoying now, but do it differently. And you can make that difference as young people.
Fantastic. And the award winner for Inspiration and Action, Prince Mustafa Zaire of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Elena. Good morning, everybody. Since I'm sitting on this seat, I think most of the distinguished guests said the things I wish to also say, but I'll add to this. I come from a country that's a least developed country. It's seen 30 years of war. But as His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Guyana, said, we cannot just think locally, we have to think globally. How can we inspire the youth? You're going to be the futures of tomorrow. You're going to be tomorrow's teachers, tomorrow's presidents, tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's leading businessmen. How are you going to preserve our planet? And it's the only planet that we have. We cannot start terraforming somewhere else. That's totally out of the question. You see these science fiction stories and things terraforming elsewhere. But let's look after our own planet here. And as His Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Maldives said, you cannot fight nature. We are here. Whatever was handed down from the previous generation to us, we don't want to hand our problems to you, and you should responsibly think about the generation that's going to take over after you. How you're going to hand over the resources of this world, which is finite, not infinite, but finite. How are you going to hand it over to the next generation? And how will they hand it over to the next generation after them? So my question would be that for the youth, because one of the inspirations that I got, and that's why they nominated me for inspiring, for change and action, is because I got my inspirations from the youth. Sometimes we overlook this because they're young, they're inexperienced, they don't know things. But you'll be surprised how much they know. Sometimes they teach us. Many times they teach us. So we really have to think globally. We have to think in unison. And we have to also bring about in ourselves behavioral changes. The next time you flush your bathroom, imagine how much water that's going to consume. And perhaps tomorrow's wars, it's going to be about fresh water. I see the melting glaciers in my country, which is the source of the mighty Amu Darya, which separates Afghanistan from its northern neighbors and runs about 2,000 kilometers. We have lost 35 kilometers around what we call the melting line. Of that, in the last 30 years, we have lost 73% of our forests. We have lost almost 90% of the green cover of the country. And because of global warming and climate change, weather patterns are becoming unpredictable. Afghanistan is very much an agrarian country. 83% to 84% of the population absolutely depend on the land. Most of the wheat is rain-fed. So if the rains don't come, the harvest is not there. If the harvest is not there, you have starvation. So we also have to think strategically how we can stockpile food for our people. We are talking about iPods here. In my country, they're thinking about where the next square meal is coming from. We are looking at air conditioning here. But in my country, we struggle how not to freeze in the wintertime. So there is this disparity between the North and the South, the North and the South divide. So I would request the developed countries to transfer clean technologies for the least developed countries and for developing countries to responsibly and in a sustainable manner use the natural resources of this world and leave it for the next generation also. You know, there's an old Afghan saying, as long as I am alive, the world is alive, and when I'm gone, the hell with everything. That is a very bad way of thinking. So as long as I am alive, the world is alive. When I'm gone, I wish the world to be even more beautiful after I leave it. So on that note, I thank you for your attention.
President Jagdeo, speaking of natural resources, Guyana has about 40 million acres of rainforest. And we've talked about this before in yesterday's session as well. And you're really sitting on pristine rainforest, and you've been a real champion in making sure that you do whatever you can to preserve it and not cut it down. You've actually come up with trying to look at ideas, how to make it economically viable not to cut down these rainforests. Sure. And of course, this has been a decision that could be considered unpopular by certain sectors of your population, for instance, the mining sector. So you're speaking in front of these young students who are actually going to grow up to be leaders and maybe perhaps presidents like yourself. Sure. So can you tell us a bit more about what it is about making decisions you know is absolutely right, but yet could be incredibly unpopular?
Well, often in developing countries, it's often the question is about bread and butter issues, as my colleague from Afghanistan mentioned. And many people in my country, they aspire to get out of poverty. They want to be able to enjoy, as I said before, all the things that anyone in a developed country would enjoy. The arguments they make is that the developed countries use their resources liberally on a polluting pathway to get where they are. So why should they not pursue the same path towards prosperity? And if the question is that I'm taking away a significant asset that they can use to pursue prosperity, they can't use it in economic terms if I preserve the entire forest. So the idea had to be coming up with an economic model that will preserve the forest, but create a system of compensatory payments because of the value, the carbon services and ecosystem services that they provide to the world.